This girl, who wears a crown, is a leading dancer at a prominent theater in Russia. With her elegant figure, she attracts numerous wealthy and influential admirers daily. However, this girl named Dominica is solely dedicated to her dance. Due to her mother's leg condition, Dominica must keep her career at its peak to receive complimentary physical therapy and housing from the theater. Yet life isn't always easy. One day, while performing on stage as usual, disaster struck. Her dance partner accidentally stepped on her leg, resulting in a break. When Dominica regained consciousness, she found herself in a hospital bed, her leg secured with metal pins, a clear sign that she had just undergone surgery. Dominica realized that her dancing career had come to an end. 3 months later, she was released from the hospital and could walk independently. Upon returning home, she discovered her Uncle Ivan visiting. Uncle Ivan, the deputy director of the intelligence agency, seldom visited due to his demanding job. While Dominica prepared tea for him, he offered to assist her with work and left behind a document. After he departed, Dominica went back to her room to examine the document. She discovered a tape recorder along with a pile of photographs. The tape recorder held a discussion between her male dance partner and another female dancer. It became clear that this other dancer desired Dominica's role and had seduced her partner to orchestrate a leg-breaking scheme to usurp her position. In a fit of rage, Dominica rushed to the theater and caught the couple in the bathroom. She confronted them with a stick. Overwhelmed by panic, she fled the theater, dialing for an ambulance out of fear that someone might be seriously hurt. Once she got home, she found her mother in distress on the floor. It turned out that the conservatory had ceased payments, leading to the nanny who usually cared for her mother no longer coming. To look after her mother and remain in the city, Dominica resolved to seek out her Uncle Ivan for potential help. However, Ivan, a shrewd man working in the Russian intelligence agency, was not one to assist anyone without a price. Even for his own niece, she needed to do him a favor first. Ivan instructed Dominica to visit a large hotel at 9 p.m. on Friday, take a bath, wear a prearranged dress, and position herself prominently in the bar lobby to catch the eye of the tycoon Dmitri. She was to strike up a conversation with him and accompany him to his hotel room. While he was distracted, she was to switch his phone. But to her surprise, Dmitri was quite aggressive with her. Just as he was about to act inappropriately, an assassin in a helmet appeared behind him and strangled Dmitri with a wire. Dominica was frozen in fear and could only comply with the assassin's commands. He used a silenced gun to shoot the door lock and guided Dominica down to the garage. After neutralizing the bodyguard, he transported Dominica to a concealed room in the hotel on a motorcycle. The assassin removed his helmet, revealing his true identity. At that moment, Ivan also entered the room. Ivan appeared to have transformed into a different individual, exhibiting coldness and ruthlessness. He informed Dominica that, having witnessed the assassin's actions and his face, she was left with two options. One was to undergo professional training and become a Russian spy. The alternative was to lose her life immediately. Clearly, Dominica had no choice but to select the first option. Prior to commencing her training, she returned home to bid farewell to her mother, who imparted one crucial piece of advice. With this, Uncle Ivan, you must ensure your own safety and not obstruct all possible escape routes. The vehicle that collected Dominica traveled along a snow-covered highway. She understood that following this journey, her life would irrevocably change, and returning to her previous existence would be impossible. Dominica was transported to a harsh and frigid region, specifically the secret military institution No. 4 of Russia located in Siberia. Upon her arrival, the female instructor who welcomed her handed her a copy of the school's regulations. Under no circumstances was she permitted to disclose her true name or any personal details. Within the institution, all students were referred to as Sparrows, comprising young men and women dispatched from various parts of the nation. A primary focus of their training was to identify and exploit the weaknesses of their adversaries. After the female instructor concluded her address, she summoned Dominica along with another male student to the front of the class and instructed them to disrobe in front of their peers. Dominica gazed at the female instructor in disbelief. However, the instructor asserted that from the moment of their birth, their bodies were the property of the state, and to repay this debt, they must relinquish their dignity and moral values. In addition to the necessity of forsaking her dignity, Dominica acquired a range of skills, including shooting, lockpicking, and tracking. As her Uncle Ivan had predicted, Dominica appeared to possess a natural aptitude for espionage. She excelled in every subject, but her consistent outstanding performance incited envy and jealousy among her peers. One day, while Dominica was showering, a naked male student unexpectedly shoved her against the wall. This individual had harbored resentment towards Dominica for an extended period and sought to dominate her through underhanded tactics. However, Dominica was not easily subdued. She seized the steel squeegee and brought him down. This altercation resulted in the headmaster summoning Dominica to his office. Curiously, he did not reprimand her for striking her classmate. Conversely, the female instructor was unyielding. During class, she called Dominica forward and then summoned the male student whom she had defeated. The instructor instructed Dominica to provide him with what he truly desired. The opponent requested Dominica to turn around, but she declined. Instead, she boldly removed all her clothing in front of him. Seeing Dominica being so open, he lost his urge to possess her, threw on his pants and walked out like a loser. The headmaster sensed that this student had a knack for reading minds, so he allowed her to graduate and sent her back to Russia. No sooner had Dominica returned home than Ivan's phone call came through. Dominica then headed to a restaurant to meet Ivan. He handed her her first assignment. A few months back, Nash, a CIA agent in the US, had a secret meeting with his informant in a park in Russia to swap intel. At that moment, a police patrol car drove by. Seeing the informant getting stopped by the police, Nash quickly pulled out his gun and fired several shots to grab the police's attention. Thanks to that, he managed to rescue the informant. Nash dashed straight to the US embassy and was safe. Nash then returned to the US for a bit. But now the Russian security agency had figured out that he was in Budapest, Europe. To uncover who his informant was, Ivan decided to send Dominica to get close to Nash. Dominica wasn't keen on being a spy, but Ivan assured her that if she completed this mission, he would set her free. With no other options, Dominica had to head to Budapest. She was set up to stay in the building of the Russian Security Bureau. Her roommate was a senior spy named Marta. Having been around for many years, Marta warned Dominica that the station chief was a sleazy old man. When meeting him, she should be cautious. As expected, Marta was spot on. He laid eyes on Dominica and his gaze lit up, looking for chances to get close to her. But Dominica was unfazed by these sleazy guys. She discovered from the documents that Nash enjoyed swimming every day, so she secretly trailed him from the pool all day long. In the evening, she dyed her hair blonde. The following day, she signed up for a card at that swimming pool. While she was entering her personal details, Dominica paused for a moment and ultimately ripped up the registration form that had a fake name on it. She then put down her actual name, which was like exposing her true self to her rival. Dressed in a stunning swimsuit, Dominica strolled past Nash, intentionally trying to catch his eye. And as she was leaving the pool, Nash called her back. To her surprise, he had been aware of her presence since the day before. He even noticed that she had changed her hair color. This indicated that he was aware Dominica was making a move towards him. Upon hearing this, Dominica boarded the bus feeling a bit anxious, but once the bus pulled away, she couldn't help but smile. The next day, Dominica returned to the swimming pool as she usually did. However, Nash was nowhere to be found today. When she went to return the key, the staff said they couldn't locate her information form. It turned out that Nash had taken her registration form, having looked into Dominica's real details. He reported it to his bosses, who found out that she used to be a dancer and, more importantly, that she was the granddaughter of the deputy director of the Russian security agency. Plus, Nash had a feeling that this woman was using her real name, which probably had some hidden motives. There were many reasons that made him want to see if he could win her over. The next day, at an international wine reception, Nash ran into Dominica again, and they both knew who each other was. They started chatting freely. Nash was upfront about wanting to be friends with her, so they made plans to have dinner together the following day. That night, Dominica got home and noticed that Marta was missing from the room. She quietly searched the room and eventually found an oil paper bag tucked away in the corner of the wall. Inside were several intimate photos of Marta and an American woman. A diary revealed that this woman was the chief of staff of the US Senate. Just then, Dominica heard the door creak open as Marta came back. She still took a moment to flip through a few more pages of the diary, uncovering that Marta was about to finalize a $250,000 intelligence deal with this person in London. When Marta walked in, Dominica stepped out of her room. Marta handed her a piece of paper, which turned out to be Dominica turning down the station chief's request to sleep with him. So this petty guy had snitched to the Russian security agency that Dominica hadn't made any progress. Therefore, the next night, she skipped dinner with Nash as she had promised and instead decided to secretly follow him home. Knowing where he lived, Dominica resolved to confront him directly to get closer. She faked a few tears and rang the doorbell at Nash's place. She started acting all pitiful, slowly moving closer to Nash to charm him with her looks. But to her surprise, Nash didn't fall for it. He even told Dominica to really think about what she wanted. For the first time, she felt the sting of failure when she couldn't read Nash's mind, and all she could do was ask him to meet again the next day. But when the next day came, Dominica waited at the pool for ages and Nash never showed up. With no other options, she had to head back to Nash's house. Using her impressive lockpicking skills, she got into his room. She searched the place but didn't find anything useful. Just as she was about to leave, she noticed 2 glasses of wine from the previous night still sitting on the table, and she grabbed the one with Nash's fingerprints. When she got back, she was shocked to see Ivan had shown up. This was thanks to the station chief spilling the beans. Since Dominica hadn't made any headway with Nash and didn't have any useful intel, she panicked and told Ivan about Marta's upcoming $250,000 deal with the Americans. At the same time, she lied and said it was a joint effort with Marta, hoping Ivan would give her $250,000 up front. Ivan realized this info could be crucial, so he let Dominica go for the time being. As he was about to leave, Ivan remembered he forgot his coat. Dominica offered to grab it for him and accidentally spotted Ivan's passport, quickly memorizing the number. After she saw him off, she turned around to find Marta pointing a gun at her. It turned out that someone had eavesdropped on their conversation. Marta asked Dominica why she was so eager to take the target that she had worked over a year to achieve. Dominica was aware that Marta couldn't secure a hefty sum of $250,000, but she could persuade the director of the Russian Security Bureau to cough up the cash to help Marta finalize this deal. Marta was really curious about why Dominica was willing to risk her life for the mission, so Dominica explained that she had previously seen the assassin under Ivan. This was something that should remain a secret. If it got out, Dominica knew she would be silenced for good. However, her actions inadvertently put Marta's life in danger. After the chaos, Dominica headed to the train station to buy a ticket to Vienna. Then she made her way to a local bank. Peering through the glass door, Dominica set her sights on a young male employee who seemed quite inexperienced. Once the bank closed, she pretended to rush in to open a new account, and the one responsible for locking the door was the young man she had targeted. When a charming beauty asked him to join her for coffee and help with the account registration, the socially awkward employee readily agreed. Meanwhile, Marta sought out the chief of the intelligence station. Still feeling bitter, she disclosed Dominica's vulnerability to him. That night, when Dominica returned to her place in Budapest, she found Marta was missing from the room. The bathroom door was slightly open, revealing that the assassin who had murdered the tycoon Dmitri was there. Marta had been brutally killed. He spared Dominica's life because she was Ivan's granddaughter. But he also cautioned Dominica that if anyone learned about his killing of Dmitri, she would be the next one found in the bathtub. After the local police conducted their investigation and found no leads, Dominica was released. Waiting for her at the police station door was Nash. It turned out that he had gotten a report from his teammates recently. The crucial news he received this time was that Dominica was a Sparrow spy who had been secretly trained by Russia. He confronted Dominica directly, pointing out the differences in the intelligence structures between Russia and the US, and criticized the cold and ruthless nature of the Russian Security Bureau towards its own citizens. Nash hoped he could persuade Dominica to switch sides and join the CIA. He promised her that he would protect her just like he had protected his informant. Dominica was somewhat influenced by his words and ultimately agreed to work for the CIA. So, Nash took her to the CIA's safe house in Budapest. There, 2 CIA officials were waiting for her. For security reasons, they hooked Dominica up to a lie detector and asked her numerous questions to see if she genuinely wanted to join the US government. However, this kind of test was not effective on a well-trained spy. After the test, Dominica laid out her own terms. She required the CIA to deposit $30,000 into her account in Vienna every month. For the CIA, Dominica was a little greedy and bold enough to request money without providing any useful intelligence. Dominica then informed them that the Chief of Staff of the US Senate was interested in selling missiles. Every participant in the room was taken aback by this revelation. They were afraid to misjudge this female spy from Russia. Dominica traveled to the agreed-upon hotel in London on the day of the transaction. There was a fictitious CIA diskette in the desk's hidden compartment, and $250,000 prepared by the Russian security agency was placed in the room. Dominica headed down to the hotel bar to wait for the Chief of Staff. To her surprise, Maxim, the chief of the intelligence station, showed up. He was clearly anxious about the deal and had come to lend a hand. However, Dominica was aware that he was actually an informant sent by Ivan. Spotting Maxim, she angrily chased him into the room. Moments later, the chief of staff, Stephanie, arrived. Dominica took a seat next to her and introduced herself as the dealer for the day. When Stephanie realized it wasn't Marta, she became cautious and was about to leave the hotel. But Dominica had done her homework on her opponent. She knew Stephanie was in desperate need of cash, so she convinced her to head to the transaction room. Once Stephanie saw the bag full of money, her guard was down. She handed Dominica the diskette with the missile information. As Dominica went to open the secret compartment under the desk, she began swapping the diskettes. However, the operation took a bit longer than expected, raising Maxim's suspicions. The CIA agent observing from the next room couldn't wait any longer and rushed over to ring the doorbell of Dominica's room, drawing Maxim out to answer the door. She pretended to be a hotel manager asking for customer feedback. This distraction gave Dominica the extra time she needed. In the end, she successfully completed the switch. After finishing the deal with Stephanie, Dominica instructed her to leave in an hour. But as soon as Dominica stepped out, Stephanie grabbed the bag of money and exited the hotel. While waiting at a traffic light, she lit a cigarette and noticed that CIA agents were tailing her on both sides. Stephanie freaked out and tossed the bag of cash into the trash. Then she stumbled across the street, only to be hit by a truck and killed. This shocking event was also witnessed by the Russian security agency staff at the hotel entrance. He quickly called back to report. Maxim picked up the call and immediately instructed the driver to head straight to the airport. He informed Dominica that the head of the Russian security agency wanted to congratulate them, so he decided to fly back to Moscow right away. Then he asked for Dominica's diskette and passport. She sensed the danger signal. But at that moment she could only fake being calm. Meanwhile, Nash had gotten the diskette from the hotel and was about to leave when he got a call from his superiors. Upon hearing about Stephanie being hit by a car and killed, Nash realized that this situation would definitely impact Dominica's life. He quickly drove to the airport, hoping to save her. He caught up with Dominica, who was in line to enter the waiting area. Dominica turned around and spotted Nash. But she shook her head at him, signaling him not to act impulsively, following her. Nash felt utterly helpless, knowing that Dominica's journey could be perilous. When she returned to the Russian security headquarters, an interrogator confronted her about leaking information to the Americans. Naturally, Dominica would never confess, even if she faced severe punishment. Witnessing her defiance, Ivan ordered that his granddaughter be tortured. Dominica was stripped of her clothes and confined to a cell, where cold water was incessantly poured over her. Later she was brought back to the interrogation room. The same question was posed, but Dominica remained steadfast in her silence. This time she endured excruciating beatings. They then showed her a video of Maxim, who had been executed after returning with her. The interrogator brandished a gun and asked the question once more. Yet, Dominica still refused to confess. The trigger was pulled, but the gun was empty. At that moment, Ivan appeared before Dominica, urging her to tell the truth. Dominica insisted that everything she did was for the mission. Her actions were solely to earn the Americans' trust and ultimately obtain information about the informants. Ivan found it hard to argue against that. It was typical for someone to go to great lengths to fulfill a mission. Seeing his niece in such a pitiful state, Ivan's resolve began to waver. Consequently, Dominica was released temporarily. When Ivan briefed the director on the situation, both the director and the headmaster suspected that Dominica was deceiving him. This put Ivan under pressure, and he vowed that if he discovered any proof of Dominica's betrayal, he would personally take her out. Meanwhile, Dominica returned to Budapest and rejoined Nash, knowing he would keep the informant's identity a secret. In the end, she was definitely going to die. Dominica thought about being safe and asked for more cash. She wanted the $250,000 to be wired to her account in Vienna. Nash agreed to all her demands. Ultimately, Nash was outsmarted by the Russian girl in front of him. So, what had to happen finally happened. When Dominica woke up in bed, Nash was nowhere around. As she opened the kitchen door, she spotted the assassin choking Nash with a wire. Dominica instantly grasped the situation. She decided to team up with the assassin to bind Nash's hands. The assassin briefly loosened the wire but pulled out a bag filled with skinning tools, which are used for skin grafts for burn victims in hospitals. He intended to slowly torture Nash until he disclosed the informant's identity. Dominica watched the assassin torturing Nash with a blank expression, even helping him hold Nash down. When Nash remained silent, Dominica asked the assassin for the tool. Then, seizing the moment when the assassin was distracted, she suddenly attacked him. It turned out she had been faking cooperation, waiting for the right moment to save Nash. At that moment, the assassin regained consciousness and lunged at both of them with a sharp knife. Neither of them was willing to just wait to die, they fought back. Dominica seized the chance to slice the assassin's tendons, causing him to collapse on the floor, unable to get up. Seeing this, she rushed in to end his life. When Dominica finally woke up, she found herself in a hospital bed. Her health was no longer an issue, but the biggest headache now was figuring out what to do next. The assassin's death clearly showed that she had betrayed them. Just then, the headmaster appeared right in front of her. Dominica thought he was there to finish her off, but he revealed that he was actually the informant. His wife had cancer, and the Russian government wouldn't let an American doctor perform the surgery, which led to her leaving him early on. This was why he had betrayed them, but he was done with that. He noticed that Dominica had the skills to take over his position, so he proposed that she expose him. This way Dominica could survive, take his place and keep working for the CIA. This pivotal moment pushed Dominica into action. First, she turned herself in to the Budapest police, confessing to the assassination of the assassin, and requested to meet with the Russian embassy. When she met with the embassy officials, Dominica asked to speak with the director of the Russian security agency. She intended to directly report the name of the internal target and use that information to negotiate for her life. Dominica relayed the mole's name to the director over the phone. Meanwhile, the headmaster returned home and left the door unlocked. He simply sat on the sofa, waiting quietly for someone to come and arrest him. The police transported Dominica to the airport. The CIA had been waiting there for quite some time, and Nash looked at her with disappointment in his eyes. This woman had finally completed her mission. Right now, a Russian helicopter was flying overhead, bringing along the spy. When Nash requested the Russians to take off the hood for identification, he was surprised to find that the person they brought wasn't the headmaster, but Ivan. At that moment, Nash realized that Dominica had tricked them, yet he couldn't reveal the truth just then. They confirmed that this was indeed the target they intended to exchange. It turned out that the name Dominica had given to the director wasn't the headmaster, but her uncle Ivan. After the director dispatched people to investigate, they discovered a used wine glass at Ivan's residence. Additionally, they found out that Ivan had a secret account in Vienna. The Americans had transferred $250,000 into it, and the encrypted data on the diskette that Ivan had obtained from Dominica also originated from Vienna. A string of evidence left Ivan with no escape route. At that moment, Ivan whispered his final words into Dominica's ear before he walked towards the Americans. However, Russia couldn't allow a traitor to leave unscathed. They had set up an ambush to shoot Ivan in the head. Dominica was brought back to Russia, where she emerged as a new breed of patriotic hero. The headmaster sat below, clapping for her with a sense of pride. Just like that, Dominica took her uncle's place and became the director of the Russian Security Bureau. Meanwhile, she also rose to become the leading double-layered Sparrow spy, navigating the tricky waters between Russia and the US. Thanks for watching. Please don't forget to subscribe and press the bell icon for more videos like this.